Yeah, so what we'll do now, we are going to start with the file-based data import. So what is file-based data import? That is FBDI. This is a tool used for importing the bulk data into Fusion ERP, like if you are working with Fusion Financials or supply chain management. So in these two cases, you have the FBDI concept. If you want to import the bulk data into HCM, you don't use FBDI. In case of human capital management, you don't use FBDI, you'll be using HCM data loader. There is HDL concept separately. So we are covering FBDI here, file-based data import. The main purpose of this one is again, we need to have one use case in Fusion applications, which we want to automate using integration. So we are going to automate this FBDI after understanding the FBDI, the concept. Okay. So today we'll be just doing the manual stuff. And based on the time, we'll see what all we are going to do the integrations with Fusion applications. So one will be reporting service for downloading the report that we'll be doing, and also this FBDI. We'll be also using some services for creating the supplier in the Fusion applications. That and all we'll be doing. So for now, let us go ahead and understand the FBDI. Okay, the file-based data import, again, there are specific steps available. We also have a document for that. In their files. If you go to FBDI info, you can open that if you anytime if you want to just go back and see the steps, and they're pretty easy to remember, because first thing what you're going to do is you are going to first decide what is the data you want to import into your Fusion applications, right? So and remember that FBDI is mainly used for bulk import. It's not like day-to-day import. It's not a online and the transactional data. You already have an application, for example, e-business suite, and you have already like some data available in your on-premise database. You have thousands of records of that. You want to download or import that whole data into Fusion applications because you are getting the Fusion subscription now. You're migrating to Fusion applications on the cloud, right? Or your data may be available in some other source. It may be available some Excel files already. You may be using some other custom application, right? You all understand this, what is the migration of the data and importing data, right? So that is a use case where you'll be using FBDI. If you want to create one or two records, you will not be using FBDI. Even though in the demo today, I'm going to just keep a couple of records there just to make it simple. But in reality, you'll be dealing with always a large amount of data, like many n number of records when you want to use FBDI. Okay, the first step is you have to decide what data you want to import, right? And then you have to go for the Oracle documentation for that one. So let's say I want to import the daily rates, or I want to import invoices. I want to import suppliers, right? You decide that first, right? Your requirement. So when you go to documentation, there are two ways you can get into this documentation. Either you go to docs.oracle.com. By the way, this is the place you have lots of documentation for Fusion applications, right? So from here you can go to cloud applications, or in fact you can see there are already direct entry points also available for some of these top SaaS services on the docs.oracle.com. Fusion Financials, and then this is the HCM supply chain management. You can see that. You can also directly click into this one. So I want to go to financials, because the daily rates, I'm talking about financial data. And from here, you can go to administer. In the administer, you can see get started with file-based data import. Right? When you click on that, you'll be getting the document related to your FBDI for financials. And on the left, you have the different objects or different data, like what you can import using file-based or FBDI in financials in Fusion. You can see like assets. In the under assets, you can use so many different types of assets, like your fixed asset, lease import, transfer import, then budgetary control, like that. Like you have the interface for all these kind of data. So the daily rates comes under general ledger. The general ledger, you can see import and calculate daily rates. So when you click into specific data here, you will see the corresponding details on the right side. So it says this is about importing and calculating the daily rates, conversion rates, and there is something called UCM account. I will also talk about what is UCM. UCM is nothing but Universal Content Management. I'll come to that a little later. And then you also have something called XLSM template, and this is a link to download the template. The most important things in this would be your UCM account, and then your after the XLS template that you have to download. You click on that, it is going to download the template. You can see the template here. I'll open that and show what is there in that template. And then you also need to know the schedule process. So you take this and paste here. Okay. Right. Let me go back to the document here. So here now, what you need to understand is, sorry, you have to click on daily rates. Yeah, so this is a UCM account, and this is our, what did I do? Yeah, this is a, sorry, this is a UCM account, and this is the template I downloaded, and this is my schedule process. Okay, so once you download the import, you can open that. For this, you need to, of course, have the Excel. I am using Open Office here. I'll open with that. Now, Open Office will not support all the macros what are there in the template, but I'll be able to open the template. The only thing is I won't be able to use that functionality properly. So when you download this template, it has the first section here will be understanding about this process. We have some documentation about that. And then if you go to the next tab, here you have the actual template. So what is this template? Now you have to prepare the data. What are the data you want to import into Fusion applications? You have to prepare according to this template. So the daily rates contains what is the currency you are going to, set, what is the currency details, no? USD from currency to INR, USD, then USD to like CAD, like that. I want to have the currency from currency conversion date to conversion date, and what type of, the multiple types are there, corporate type, and if you go to Fusion applications also, you can see that list over there in the UI. Then what is the conversion date and the inverse conversion date? So you have to prepare the data according to the template. You can't just use any CSV file, etc. So once you prepare the data into this format, what you will do, you can go for validate daily rates. This is going to validate if the data is correct in terms of your the data type, etc., is properly formed or not according to this template. It is not going to communicate with Fusion applications, but within this, what are the macros you're having? Based on that, validation is going to validate if the data is correctly formed. And then what you do, the last step in this, in the preparation of the data, you are going to click on generate daily rates. So this button will be different for different data based on what you're importing for that module. 1 second, I'll be back. right? So once you click on that generate daily rates, in other cases it will be generate invoices or whatever, that button will be there. So when you click on that, you are going to get a CSV file. Okay, you are going to get CSV file. If it is one tab, you will get like one CSV file. There might be some dependent data also based on your data what you are importing. Then you'll be having the additional tabs. So now if there are more than one CSV, or even in one CSV also, you are going to get a CSV file and also a zip file out of that, this action. I can't click on this just because I'm not using Excel here, but that's okay. That is not the not a big deal. That will just work, and it's going to create a CSV file. I have a sample CSV file. I'll be just showing that one. So once you get the CSV file, even the CSV file, you can go and update the data after generating also. That's possible. But make sure like the data is properly formed again. Here, if you're preparing, you have the validation and then you can generate. Okay. So that is the first step is downloading the template, preparing the data, and generating the CSV and zip files. Okay. So in our case, you can see daily rates, for example, something like this. I have a sample file here. I open that one. I can also open Notepad, the CSV file, right? It's a comma separated values. So this is the from currency to currency, from conversion date to conversion date, type of conversion, and then conversion rate and inverse conversion rate. So for every column, you will see whatever I was showing in that, you'll be getting a CSV file in that format, right? Then what you do is the next step, you're going to upload this. You're going to upload this CSV file or zip file into Fusion application, that is nothing but UCM. So UCM is called Universal Content Management. And in case of Fusion application, the interface, when you go to the menu, you'll be seeing that as file import export. So file import export section will be available. I'll be showing that. So you upload the file there. And then the next step, you are going to schedule a job. And how to do that one? That also there is interface for that one. You will be having all the jobs which are available in the Fusion applications. Right? You'll be able to schedule a job or you're basically scheduling a process, you know, for that job. So in case of FBDI, there is one job you are going to schedule that is called load interface file for import. Load interface file for import is the common job. Irrespective of what FBDI it is, we are going to use this interface or this job. In addition to that one, you're also going to give a sub process or the actual process specific to your data what you're importing. So in this case, I'm importing the daily rates. For that, it will be import and calculate daily rates. How do you get this one? This is, you have to anyway know it. It is hard coded. For any FBA, it is the same thing. But the data specific process will be available in the FBA documentation. The document what you have seen here, right? I have in fact copied that into my file. You can see import and calculate daily rates. Right? So that is a process you are going to schedule as part of scheduling the jobs. So that is nothing but you're submitting the job and then you have to wait for completion of the job. Which job? This is the main job you are doing. As part of that, you will also say, I want to trigger this one. So the main job, you have to wait until the main job completes. So you have to wait until the status goes to either succeeded or error. In between, there are multiple additional statuses will be there, like waiting and completed, like that. So you have to wait until you get succeed. And then the data will be reflected in the Fusion applications. In your respective module, you can go and check also. In the case of daily rates, so let me open a couple of tabs here for my Fusion apps. So this is one tab. I'll keep this one for, and here, one second. Let me put this one for UCM and this one for schedule process and one more to check my data. So how do you go to UCM? You go to again tools. Under tools you have file import and export. So this is where you will be able to upload the files. When you upload a file into UCM or file import export, what happens? Will there be any action happening on that file? Nothing. You are just uploading the file and keeping in some repository indirectly on the Fusion applications. So what is the purpose of this repository? So now if you are going to run any job on Fusion applications on the cloud, right, on the SaaS itself, that job, if you want to pick up the file, then where will it pick up from? It is going to pick up only from your UCM, your file import export. So any file which you want to make it available for any jobs or any process, etc., you want to keep that in the UCM first. You have to upload here. Even there are some concepts for extracting the data. So if I'm going to extract the data, other day also you have seen, right? Yesterday also, when we create the BIP report, I scheduled a process and then I used like UCM is my target. So then after that job is completed, the file was available in UCM here. I was able to search invoice2.pdf, it was available here that way. And from there, if you want to download, you can download to your local system. So this is a repository for all your files. Then yesterday I was also shown that we didn't discuss, but you can, where do you schedule the jobs from? For that, you have to go to ESS. I mean, it's using ESS internally, but you will call that one schedule process. You can go to that one, right? Then what I want to open here, let me go and show. If you want to see that daily rates in the UI, where will you see that one? See, from the UI also I'll be able to create the daily rates. If I want to like one or two records I want to create, I can create even from here, right? So now for that one, there is something called and from here there is setup and maintenance. So the setup and maintenance is what you'll be using as a functional implementation, like tasks. So when you actually want to implement your Fusion financials or any Fusion applications to the customer, you'll be dealing with setup and maintenance, and there is a proper standard process, like the available. You have to follow that for the configurations, and there are different tasks you have to complete, etc. So if you want to just do any specific tasks also, I can go and search for that task. So here I want to manage my daily rates. So I can say manage daily rates. Just put percentage so that you not type exactly same. So manage daily rates is a task. If I click on the task, from here also I'll be able to configure my daily rates. I can go and create my new daily rate from here also. So if I want to see the different types of daily rates, you can see corporate, fixed, those things are available here, and actual daily rates available in the system already. I'll be able to search from here. So if I want to search from INR to USD will be available on the top. For today's date, and let's just search for everything. So this is the data available. So it is taking 70.16 or whatever for the corporate. So I want to set up my data. I want to import the data using FBDI. So what we will do now, we will do that complete steps manually, and then we will come back and see if that data is reflecting in this interface or not. Okay. Okay, then What I will do now, let me follow those steps. So I have this sample file. I will just take this file only for my demo. I will modify the data. Let me just take a copy of this one. So today is 0 to 23. I'll use that name. I can just use any name, but I'm just keeping a relevant name for that. So what is the first step? First step is to upload this file to UCM. You can also upload during the scheduling process, but this is always good practice. You first upload it. So when you're uploading that, and
Bhaskar, data, sorry to interrupt. In the data file, we didn't correct the data, right?
oh yeah, you're right. Thanks.
We might get the same thing, right?
And the date also have to actually change. Yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah, sure.
So you change it to 3. So I'm importing just 2 conversion rates. One is for PHP to INR, and other one is INR to USD. So just
Bhaskar, for INR to USD, date is March you are given.
Yeah, okay. All right. Then here I will put the date as okay. I'll just put everything ending 3. Okay. Something like this. 70.093. Let me make 1 here. It will be more clear. Okay, I've done that. Yeah, now I can use this one. And then while importing the data, you can also use account here. So which account you have to use in this case? That will be based on what you have in the document. Like it is using UCM account, Fin General Ledger import, right? So you choose that one, Fin General Ledger import, and then you want to upload that. Okay, actually account you can set here, not there. That is for search. So this is our file. Where is our file? Come on. .223 account, Fin General Ledger import, save and close. There are different accounts like available based on which part of Fusion applications you're using, etc. We just upload that file here. It is not really, okay, done. Then what I do, I'll go and schedule my job. This one, upload and run the job. So for running the job, you go to schedule process. These are the status of the existing process which are already submitted. But I am going to schedule new process. And you have to go and search for the job what you want to schedule. Search, load interface. Just paste that if you don't want to type it. Search for that. You got it and select it. So you're selecting the job name. Click OK. So when you're scheduling a job, it may be having some input parameters you need to configure. So that is the interface you're going to get in the next step. So this is my job name, what I want to schedule. And these are the input parameter values I want to key in. That is the next step. So for the load interface file for import job, one of the parameters is the import process what you want to use. The import process will be the process name what you copied from the documentation. Import and calculate daily rates. So this is going to be your process name for the daily rates. So you search for that. Select that one as a parameter value. And data file. The file just now you uploaded to UCM. You can select that one. It will be available on the top because just now you're done. Otherwise, you can go and search for that. If you're not uploaded, you can also upload a new file from here also. Select that and click on submit. So this is our process ID. You can make a note of that. Ending 503. And refresh this. You can see 503. It is the current status is paused. Actually, it is having multiple things to complete. So it is triggering something called transfer file. Then it is going to import to your interface files, interface objects. And then it is going to actually run this specific process to process the data into the actual tables. So you can refresh it until it becomes succeeded. Your 503 still not succeeded. So now it should be done. It has actually done multiple steps to complete that import process. And when you go to after this one, you can go and verify. So if I search for this again, you can see 71.093 for our corporate. So what are the data I kept in that file? That data will be reflecting this one. Okay. So this is how you can import, you can use the FBDI. The steps will be more or less same. Only in many cases, actually, you'll be using one more step. There's actually one step is to import into the interface files, interface objects, and then you have to run one more following process to actually to process the data. That information will be available in your document. In case of suppliers, you have to again use a batch ID and run again. That's how it works. In case of daily rates, it's just single step. Everything is done in one single step. So, right. So, based on your documentation, based on the what data you're importing, you have to follow. You have to prepare the data accordingly. Then you have to upload into appropriate UCM account, and then choose the appropriate your import process. All that you have to take care. But the steps will be more or less same. Okay. Any questions on this? Anything not clear? Or anything anybody wants to add any more points to this?
Bhaskar, this is Sunil.
Yes.
This FBDI has nothing to do with OIC, right?
When you are doing manually, yes. We have not touched anything in the OIC now.
Okay. So if we want to automate, then we'll go for OIC.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah. just to set that context, I am covering that here. Otherwise, you won't understand what we are automating in the integration. Okay. So what we will do now? Again, there might be many other things when you are really dealing with this FBDI, there you will get into different aspects of that and all you will be learning, and you'll be studying further on that, and you can use that. But what we'll do now, we'll get back to our integration now again. So let us try to create one small integration now. Before going to FBDI, I will create let us work with report service. What report service I want to do? Using report service, I would like to download the report what I created yesterday. Yesterday, if you remember, I created a report using BIP report, and this was the ID I copied here. That will be still there. If it's the same instance I'm using, I can just confirm that if it is there or not. Mhm. So that was available directly under financials. This one, this report. So what I want to do now, that report I want to download using my integration. So whenever somebody clicks on that integration, it will download it to specific folder, either into FTP or you can keep into your local also. Both will work now because my agent is working already. I started. So if I want to use my local system, I will use file adapter. Let us do the local system only in our example. Okay, now how will you import it? So programmatically you want to import the data. What you need to have? For example, in case of PLSQL, think about PLSQL. Not in the Fusion application. So you have some other application. And in that application, you create a report, you want to download that. So you need to have some API for that, correct? So there is in case of database oriented concept, you will be, or the system will be exposing one PLSQL API, nothing but PLSQL function or procedure, which will take some arguments, like what is the report ID, what should be your download type, whether PDF or CSV or whatever, etc. What is the username, or there could be some parameters you have to give, and then where you want to download, etc. Or in this case, what happens in case of Fusion applications? In case of Fusion applications, all the interfaces or all the APIs are available only as web services. The web service may be your SOAP-based web service, or it could be available as a RESTful service. Both are available. Some functionality is available as SOAP, and some functionality is exposed using REST. Usually, the GET operations will be available as REST in Fusion so far. Anything related to your create and update will be available as SOAP. I mean, not all the places, generally I'm telling, but the report service, even though it is a GET operation, the one what I'm going to show is a SOAP-based web service, which is available in Fusion applications. So the report service, again, I have a document available in the file. VIP report. Yesterday only I was showing that, right? The same file. If you scroll down, not there. Report service, yeah. Report service info.txt. Let me rename this also to BIP. I will upload this later. So in this is my web service WSDL, which is available in the Fusion applications. Where will you get this information? How will you know what is the WSDL URL for that? One thing is, if you already know it, you can just use it. That may be available in some documentation. Otherwise, you can also go to Fusion applications and search for that under tools, developer connect. So if you go developer connect, from there you will be able to see all the list of web services which are exposed. These are all SOAP-based web services. Either you search here or it will be available in the list. Report service, you won't get it. What are the reasons? They were also working on one more version of that one. But it's fine. I mean, sometimes like they may not be exposing in this repository, but it will be available. So report service is available for us. I know it. Okay. Now, when you get the WSDL, if you're getting from here, for example, I want to get a web service related to supplier. Click on supplier. There's a web service available for that. Basically, these are all the different web services, whatever you see here. like, I mean, for the supplier related, supplier negotiation version 2, version 3, then supplier like that. I want to take this web service. Then this is going to be a WSDL URL. So once you get that one, it will look like this. This host name will be usually like related to the host what you are using. In this case, my Fusion itself is UCA F5ZKS7, right? The same host name is available here when I taken from the Developer Connect. So in any case, what you will do, whenever you are taking any WSDL related Fusion applications, okay, this will do later supplier. In case of report service, this is the URL I know. Now, then what you do, you take your Fusion application URL. This is my URL, right? The base URL. And replace this part up to here. Then this becomes a URL available in your instance. You can also go and check whether you're able to access that WSDL. When you access this, now if you remember how to read the WSDL, if you want to really go and understand, you can go and try to read it. But generally, the WSDLs from Fusion applications are too complex. They'll be exposing too many operations and they'll be having reference to many XSD, etc. But again, everything you'll be able to relate it if you really want to understand. Or the best way to know the operations and what kind of request it is going to accept will be to go to SOAP UI and create one project for that WSDL. Okay, this is in case, for example, report 1. And then you check there. This will be easy to see what are the operations available. You can see here report service, and these are different operations available. Create report, get template, whatever, run report, all that. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to use a run report. So in fact, before you go and use any web services, in your integrations, like in integration cloud, or if you're using Oracle SOA, you may be doing SOA integration, or you might be using some other integration technology also. Before go and programmatically like to test there, you can test your web service from here. How do you test it? We have been testing our integrations from here, right? The integration is also a web service. We are able to call that. Same thing you can do here. You create the project, which operation you want to run, you expand that one, you double click on the request, you will get a sample SOAP here. Like this is a sample SOAP. So you have to fill the data now for each and every attribute, add the authentication, and then submit. It is going to communicate with the Fusion applications and provide you will get the result. That's how you can test it. But I'm not going to do that. I'll directly check it like in the Fusion today. I mean the integration. But this is a good practice. Whenever, not only Fusion applications, any web service you want to use in the integrations, first make sure to understand about the request, what it is taking, etc. using SOAP UI. That is easy to understand. And then the same thing you can replicate in the integrations. Okay, now let me go back to my integration. Okay, what we want to build. Let us just note down those steps first. So using report service, operation I'm going to use. Okay, let me put that URL here also. This is my URL. Don't put 443. It won't work with 443. You have to just use without that. So this is my URL. Operation is run report, right? So in our integration, what we will do? You have to first call this web service, report service, or invoke, whatever you want to say. What operation I want to call? Run report. And you will be providing or map appropriate input for that. Once you get, what will be the result of this one? When you run report, when you invoke this operation of report service by providing the required input like your report ID, etc., you are going to get the response as base 64 encoded data. You're not going to get like your actual file. You're going to get only base 64 encoded data. It's a binary data. Then what you will do, you have to convert that into your appropriate format. But it is going to make our job easy when you go to file adapter. In case of FTP, you have to do an additional step. But in case of file adapter, what happens? There is an option to say, I want to write as it is into my file, base 64 to base 64. Then when you actually get the file, it will be showing the data in the correct format. It will convert into the type. I mean, when it is displaying, it will be having the, what I say is when I'm getting the response, one of the inputs will be say like, no, what kind of data you want, PDF or what it is, or Excel, right? Your base 64 will be actually formatted according to that format. Now, when you write that into a file, your file will be automatically available in the proper format. So now the step one is to invoke this one, and you are getting the response in the base 64. Step two will be to use a file adapter connection. So, and then write this one into the file. Sorry. Write into a file. How to do this one? You'll be having a response element, no? From that response element, you'll be having a variable to access this one. I'll be giving that as an input to my file adapter input. That's how we are going to build the integration. Okay. If you want any questions, you can ask, but otherwise you can wait until I complete and I can take the questions. But anyway, if you still want to, if any quick questions I can take before I build it. Okay. Okay, so what I will do now.
Bhaskar, can you give me one real-time scenario where this will be used?
Where this will be used. See, for example, you want to download this report into your file once in a day. Okay, every day morning 9 o'clock, you want to get the latest report and store into your local system. How will you do that? Can you do that without any integrations? I can schedule a report. Today, without any integrations, I can go and schedule the report and say, generate that file. But that file will be available only in UCM for you. Or you may get a email if that option is available. If that option is available in that. But if you want to generate into specific location, or you want to deal, or you want to take the data and massage and do something more on top of that, you know, in that case, you will be needing the integrations. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, Bhaskar.
Okay. So what all connections we need to create now for building the integration? Anybody would like to answer? First, you have to create connections, right?
SOAP connection.
So connection for SOAP connection for trigger. Let's say whether it is trigger or invoke. But what I will do is actually I'll go and create a schedule integration.
Oh. So you're choosing the type as schedule integration.
Yeah. Okay. If you remember last time, last week also, for FTP we did schedule integration.
Right.
That I will choose. It means there is no trigger indirectly. So the first step will be to invoke this service, correct? So to invoke this service, what I need to create? So SOAP is correct. So you need to create a SOAP. I'll be creating as an invoke only for my report service.
Bhaskar, here I have one question.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday we did not create that ESS job, right? For our custom report.
Right.
So without ESS job also we can fire from our integration.
Yeah. Run report is for that.
Okay.
This is meant for run. That's for that only.
No, basically what I thought is
Custom job is separately you can do it, but custom job again, yes, if you want to schedule, if you want to trigger that from integration also possible, the custom job also. But that will not give any output to you in the integration. So the custom job will run it and save the data or generate the report in the UCM.
Right.
You will not get the data inside your integration.
Oh, that is not visible. Huh? Okay.
No. I mean, from the UCM again, you can download using integration. There is some service called Erp Integration Service.
Oh.
See, for every operation, I mean, for different functionalities, you're having different web services in Fusion. Report service is all about operations about your report, like you want to run report or something like that. In fact, and then you're having ERP integration. One more is available for this one is used for scheduling a job. Schedule job or download, upload to UCM. All these are possible ERP integration. Other than that, you also have ERP cloud adapter. Either you can communicate with Fusion applications through two different means using integration. One is using specific web service like this. For example, you're also having a supplier service if you want to create supplier records, etc. These are separate services. So in this case, in that cases, you're dealing with a direct web service. But what Oracle has done recently, it also has is providing one more thing called adapter. ERP cloud adapter, HCM cloud adapter, like that. So this one contains, it basically encapsulates all these different web services into one adapter. May not be everything, but some of them, most of them will be available inside the adapter. So when you go to adapter, like for example, FTP adapter, what we are doing in the FTP adapter is having different operations, right? Download or write, read, like that. The same manner, if you go to adapter also, you'll be getting those operations. So in the adapter itself, I can say I want to upload to UCM or I want to create a supplier. Those different operations are available inside the adapter also. Internally, the adapter will be using these web services only. But this is another easier way of instead of having a reference of different web services separately, you can also use adapters. So we'll be doing both the versions. Some I'll be doing using web service, and at least one example I'll be able to show using adapter also. Okay, so in this case, now I'm using a report service. So report service, I need to call the run report. For that, I'm going to create one connection. And once I get the data, I want to write to the file. So I need to have one file adapter also. This also will be invoked only for because I'm writing something. Okay, let me go and do it. In the connections, create SOAP. BK Fusion Report Service invoke connection. Create. Then WSGL URL. So that is this WSGL. Click OK. Report service alone does not have any security. While calling the operation, we are going to provide the username password. That is a little different from other service in Fusion applications. So what I will do here, configure security in this report service. I'll make it no security policy. That's how they return. This is actually a little bit old service. So they are actually protecting every operation instead of the whole service. Save this and test. So this is actually a connection to your Fusion applications on the cloud. 100% okay. So close this. Now let me also create one file adapter. I think I don't have it. I need to set the agent group also in case of file. The agent I have test and save and close. Let me go to integrations. Create one scheduled. I will discuss about it why schedule again. If you have any thoughts on that, you can do in different ways. I'm just doing this because I don't want to add any overhead of again how to invoke that and all. In schedule orchestration, I can directly submit from here. But you will also see the limitation of schedule orchestration. We'll discuss that after creating it. BK. Report integration. What is the first step I want to do? I want to invoke something. Which one? I want to invoke my SOAP adapter. I mean the SOAP connection, the one I created just now. This is the report. Drop here. BK Fusion report. Click next. Now you have to choose the operation. This web service exposes many operations. This list will be exactly same what you have seen in SOAP UI. Right? It's the same web service. So I'll go and select the run report. Click next. Click next. Done. And for this one, it is expecting to map input parameter values. Right? This I need to hard code now. See, this is a limitation if you schedule orchestration. If this is an app-based orchestration, this can come from the client. But only thing is the client has to call it by providing the appropriate input. So if you want to make it more generic, then you will make it app-based orchestration. And then you have to again do something to automate it if you want to run automatically, right? So, but in this case, I will go and hard code the values for this. So the run report, what are it is expecting? You can see there is user ID password. Let me go and set that first. This user ID will be our Fusion user ID, not the integration cloud. You should be very clear on these things. Don't get confused between Fusion applications and OIC just because both are cloud. They both are different clouds. One is PaaS and one is SaaS, and they're coming from different place altogether. So this is my Fusion applications, what I'm using. So I have one user which I will be able to use it to connect. Right? This is my username. And the password also I will hard code this. Save and close. In addition to that, the main thing will be a run request. You expand that report request. This is exactly same what you see in the SOAP UI. This whole thing is available over there. Okay, now let us understand this. the important things would be, okay, if you want to see a sample SOAP request, I have that in my text file. The report, the info file is there, no? Just scroll down. This is a sample SOAP. If I put this one, I can run from SOAP UI as it is. So this is going to give me help, like, you know, what are the mandatory things? Basically, the mandatory thing is attribute format. You'll see that here. Attribute format. And I want to download as PDF. Save and close. Then it is also having parameter name values. If you remember yesterday, my report is having one parameter called P source. Remember that? So if I have to run that report, I have to provide that P source value, like ISP or what value you want to give for that input. So I am trying to run that same report, no? So I need to provide that data also. So these are the parameter, list of parameters is going to help us to add multiple parameter names and corresponding values. Okay. So where do you have that one? Okay, let me set the parameter values little later. Before that, let me set the report absolute path. So you're having report absolute path here. This one. And what is the path? Yesterday I have taken that when I created. I copied here. This is my path. I'll just put that one as a value. Save and close. Then parameter name values, you can see here, parameter name values. The same thing you will see in the document also, parameter name values. So what you do now in the parameter name values, expand it. You're having list of parameter name values. Then you're having item. Item contains a name and a values. The name will be the name what you're given to the parameter in the data model. So that name was P underscore source. Because if you, okay, I'll come back and show that if you want to see. That report was having 3 columns. What is source? Then invoice name and value or something like that, correct? So we added one parameter for the source. And the parameter name I have given is the P source. For that value now, if you're having input, you can take from the input. Otherwise, I'll be just hard coding that. So if you see under values, you'll be having item. That's where you're giving the actual value. So this is what I'll be giving the value for that. See, this I have to just understand how that XML structure is configured for this web service. And accordingly, you have to provide the values. Sometimes there may be multiple parameters now. If there are multiple parameters, what you have to do? You need to get one more item like this. No, there is a way to actually say right click here. And then you say repeat the element. I'll be showing one example like this in FBDI, where you'll be adding repeated elements. Okay. In this case, repeat element, if you want, since I have only one parameter, I don't need to repeat that. So if you repeat, you are going to get the complete one more structure here. You can put that name and the corresponding value. Okay. What else? So these are the mandatory fields. So one is the user ID, password, and then attribute format, and the parameter and absolute path. So I have set everything what we need. Rest all also will be shown as asterisk here. That is just because your XSD is telling everything is mandatory, but it's not mandatory for your operation. So you can just ignore that. Okay. I'm not taking anything here because the schedule orchestration. So validate this. and close. Just give me one moment, I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. So run report is done. So after that, whatever the response I get it, I'm going to send that to my file adapter. So let me go ahead and drop the file adapter quickly here. So this is a file. Okay, so BK write report file. And so whenever you are going to write the base 64 data as it is, in case of file adapter, you have to say, do you want to specify the structure of the file? Say no. I don't have CSV, XML, nothing. Output directory, you can go and create a directory, or you can just use an existing one. Temp. Okay, I'll create one. A report. OIC. So this is the path I want to generate. And file name, I have to go to report. What is that? Invoice report.pdf. Okay. If you want to put percentage sequence, all that is possible. That's fine. Next. And done. Then you have to map that one also. Right. This is a map for report file. In this map, see, there's only one element on the right side. If you remember, if you are working with any file adapter, when you are using write file, the write file will be actually expecting some CSV format, XSD, XML format, but in this case, it's the binary data. So the complete data you have to just send as a binary value. Where it will be available, where that will be available in the Fusion report response, run report run, will be having something called report bytes. This is what you get. So this report bytes you can map. Come on. That's all you have to do for the file. Validate and close. And save once. Go to tracking field. Since it's a schedule orchestration, I'll just take the start time. Save this. I'll take the questions. Just let me run once and test if everything is working as expected. I will activate this. Oh, I said activate and schedule. Huh? I'll just close this. Activation done. And I will submit here. Submit now. Submit now. So let's wait for a couple of seconds. If it is working, it has to generate a PDF file here and open that. You will be getting the data. See this? So everything is working as expected. This is for ISP. Now, if you want to run this for some other source, we don't have easy way to do this because we are making schedule orchestration and then that value you have to hard code there, correct? So what you can do is you can even provide one UI if you want to really automate even more based on your requirement. I can provide some UI. That UI will be having a form. In that form, you enter the what is the value for these then I will call this integration from that the backend and something like that. Okay, fine. But anyway, this thing what I have done is working as expected. Okay, now I can take the questions. Okay, the idea here, the couple of things, right? One way of, what we are learning, one part of it is, if you're having any web services, it could be Fusion Web Service or some other web service, how you are going to use them in the integrations. That is one aspect you understood today. The other aspect is specific to report service. In case of run report, what are the different parameters I have to set and how to use it? So this and all, you can't expect to know everything immediately anyway. There are different web services and different operations work in different way and different parameters will be required. That is your part of job, that you are going to explore and learn different web services based on your need. That is not a big deal. It is a big deal to get your work, the requirement implemented. But that you have to anyway do it. But you should not be having any questions about, oh, how I go and create the SOAP connection, what WSL I should be using there, which operation I should be how do I know what operation I should be selecting? When I after dropping, how I do the mapping? Technically you should be completely clarity. Specific to the web service, what parameters you have to send, that is the functional knowledge, correct? That you'll be learning from documentation, etc. You have to separate these two things. Fine. Okay, any questions?
Bhaskar, one question. That XDO link, right? That is our data model one, right?
Which link, sorry?
For the running the report, we have given that absolute path.
Yeah. This is I've taken yesterday. I'm creating
right.
That. Yeah. That is actually the path you will see when you go to the Fusion applications.
That is specific to the data model or
no, specific to report.
Report, right?
Yeah, okay. Report. Yeah. In fact, this is our path only. You can see custom financial report name.
I had a confusion to choose whether XDO or a report. So I just wanted
it's a report.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions in the integration? Did we do anything different from how we did other integrations? Not much, right? It is now same. You just create a connection and drop it and map it. That's all. In any integration that is going to be, that's what you are going to deal with. So in fact, with this knowledge, what you learned already also, since you know how to use DB adapter, how to use file adapter, how to use FTP adapter, how to call any SOAP-based web service, how to call RESTful web service, how to expose integration as a SOAP, how to expose integration as a REST, right? You have done so many different aspects, right? Different use cases here. You should be able to, in fact, create solution for any integrations in your work also. More or less, you know the scope of your technology now. We'll be doing, of course, more examples, more use cases, etc. But what I'm saying, even with this knowledge, you should be able to create the solutions. In fact, this is easier than the FTP example what you have done. FTP example, you have done much more complex steps in that. when you did the zip file, like processing all the files of that, creating a zip of CSV to XML, right? Only difference is we're using a Fusion Live web service here. That's all. No questions?
I think once we create one report and then fire it, we might get more doubts.
Sure,
It
no
looks
problem.
easy, but practically,
It won't be really complex. Believe me. I mean, if you are practicing your integrations,
right.
then creating this one is easy only. If you know how to create the connections and all, we are already done the previous examples, then this is really easy only.
Okay.
Yeah. For this one, I also have a, do I have a separate example? Let me just check it. I mean, for some of the practices, I also have the recordings, right? Just activity recordings also available. That will be, you'll be getting under recordings activities. Yeah, report service. So POI is there, separate one. This is a shorter version of like this. Even for OBI, OTB, everything you can see. For how to create BIP report, BIP report, there is a separate recording only for the practice activity without audio in this. Just steps will be there. Like this, it's just 11 minutes how to create. If you want to just follow this, if you don't know how to create report, you follow this, right? And like that, for BIP custom job, I did not show that. I can show that also, but you can also just go through this and create the custom job for BIP. And how to create OTB report. Again, there's a part 1 and part 2 because I think the recording, while I was creating, like the recording was broken. So you have to follow these two to create the OTB report. For top 5, top 10, that one is available. How to use report service, you're having this one. If you're not done the greetings, this was example. PO processing orchestration using different use cases, that is a recording is there. So you can follow these recordings. Where will you get in your path? If you go to your, when you go to your shared with me, right, in your Google Drive, you have 2 folders, right? One is activities folder, OIC activities folder. Under that will be having files and recording activities. And the session recordings are different from this one. Session recordings are the complete recording, right? So if you want to do the activity, sometimes it becomes difficult to follow the session and do it, because the session I'm going very slow. Then you have to like to click forward, because so some of them I have the separate recording for your activities. You can take help of that. Okay, so what you do before the next session is you should already done greetings, PO processing, validate CC, all that, right? And then FTP, 3 different use cases you have done. And I also asked you to do one more additional use cases of, I think, what was that?
Reading the file instead of database.
Yeah, reading the file instead of database. Write to a folder as a separate XML file. This one. And then what you have to do is you need to work on the REST from yesterday, creating a REST GET operation and post operation today. In the post operation case 1, writing to FTP. Case 2, you have to do writing to or inserting to your employees table. You can practice that one also. It's actually going to help you to how to use insert in database adapter. You're going to do that one. Then creating BIP report manual, right? Then OTBA report manual. Of course, that is only manual. Then you are going to use report service integration. All these things you should be doing before the next session. Then only you'll be feeling comfortable and it becomes easy to understand what we are doing next. While you are doing the practices, if you're stuck on something, if you have any questions, you can WhatsApp me. The group messages, like no, you can't send, but you can send me a personal message. Okay, don't hesitate on that. Whenever I have time, I will reply on that. In fact, Padma
Bhaskar,
was
I have a
doing.
question.
Yeah.
I've created an app-oriented orchestration.
Mm-hmm.
Say, I want to convert that to schedule.
No, you can't do that.
So again, you mean to say again, I have to do all that in the schedule orchestration.
Yeah, that's how I know. I don't know if there's any easy way.
Okay.
If you are getting any option, I don't think that's available anywhere.
Actually, I haven't seen anything such because I created one app-driven orchestration. So I wanted to schedule it. I couldn't do it. So is there any other way that I can, schedule that app-driven orchestration instead of, again going and creating everything from
You
scratch?
can do one thing. What you can do is you already have the app-driven orchestration, right? So for that one, you create a connection. So that will be having a WSDL file, correct?
Yeah.
So using the WSDL file, you create a connection and hardcode the username password of your OIC in that connection. Like you remember validate CC when I was creating. I want to call a validate CC in my PO processing. What I did, I created a validate CC connection, SOAP connection by using WSDL. Same thing I did for REST yesterday. I have a REST service here. I'm calling that. So you can create a connection for your own integration also. Then what you do in the schedule integration, then you create a schedule integration. In that you call this web service. I mean, this one is a web service over there by hard coding the values.
Okay.
Once you hard code it, then you can just run it any number of times. Did you get it?
Yes, yes. Let me just try it out.
It will work. Of course, it has to work.
Questions.
So if you want to avoid like calling every time from SOAP UI, so you create a connection to your app-driven orchestration and call that one from your scheduled orchestration by hard coding the values. What do you mean hard coding the values? Like this, right? In our integration, we're hard coding, right? When I'm calling the first service, so here I'm hard coding in the mapping. So this hard coding will be the hard coding of your WSDL inputs. Okay. So you have to work on this practice. This is very, very important. If you don't work on the practices, you will just forget it later on. And when you want to do it later, it will become very difficult. Irrespective of whether you need it or not, you just work on the practices, spend some time, maybe like daily 1 hour or like one day you have 2-3 hours, you just do that. Whatever the convenience we have, you have 1 week time to complete all the practices. Okay, so when we come in the next week, I will be in fact showing some of these activities like I noted down here: lookups, notifications, how to use nodes, scope, and then we'll be doing ERP integration service for FBDI. We'll be doing supplier for creating the suppliers. We'll be also using how to use the fault, etc., etc., etc. In supplier also we'll be creating different use cases like to reading from a CSV file, reading from a database, updating the database after creation, all that. That's the focus in the next week. Okay, so spend some time on the practices. That's important. Fine. Any questions? I think that's all for today. All right, then we'll wind up here if you don't have any questions.